What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC reality check, and you don't see my pretty sexy face, so you know I'm not alone. We are talking about NXT, even though there's a WWE pay-per-view that we're going to just sort of ignore. We got Halloween Havoc coming back next week. We got Jake DeMarco in the chat. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, happy to be back once again. The one and only Spaz Phoenix tearing it up, taking down NXT one review at a time. I'm telling you, I'm excited for Halloween Havoc. I'm really glad they, added all these interesting and unique speculations and stipulations, I'm going to say. There's a lot to speculate on, and honestly, I think it's going to be a very exciting show.
There's a small part of me, A, because I love cheesy shit, and B, because I love Halloween. I'm sort of bummed that this isn't a proper, takeover Halloween Havoc. But
I am as well, but
it does leave it open to be a little bit more silly and to leave our expectations a little bit more reserved. But, I went from last week not even wanting to review the show to this week's go-home show to next week's show that I'm actually really looking forward to. So they've done the whole graduation in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, and that's a typical, schedule for Vinceism. You got 3 weeks to make it work, or it's going away.
Well, we had that 1 week, and I know I was talking to you throughout the entire night, as we typically do, because you got to get ready for Joe's show, and I'm getting ready for mine. But that week, 2 weeks ago, nothing was hitting.
Yeah, on either brand, both shows were just not doing well. In NXT, I was disappointed with more because AEW can be hit or miss pretty often, but NXT usually is very consistent. It may not be like, oh, it blew your mind and was a total knockout of a show.
Yeah.
But it's still consistently good. There's good matches. There's pretty good storytelling. And obviously, it can be better week to week, but this was just an abysmal week for it.
I think the thing about it, and I think I put it right out there on Twitter halfway through writing my notes, I just threw the clipboard away and said fuck it, and it was because nothing terrible happened and nothing awesome happened, so I was just gonna come up and do a review and be like meh.
Yeah, sadly, there's just nothing to really, articulate on.
And I think there's a big difference between that and what we got this past week, where again, nothing super fiery and flashy happened, but it was very functional. NXT has a lot of moving parts. We got one big swerve at the end, which we're going to talk about in a second. NXT's in a weird spot right now because they are getting decimated by AEW, as much as that breaks my heart.
Yeah.
So I think they're sort of stopping looking out and starting to look in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because they need to stop booking as if they're in a war and need to focus on themselves. Everyone loved NXT when it was on the network for a reason. They need to go back to what they were doing then.
Yeah, and I don't mind it being on TV because it is an indicator that WWE thinks of it as a third proper brand. I don't mind it being 2 hours.
Yeah, I don't either.
As I've always said, I would love it to be playing on a channel in Canada that I can actually watch so I don't have to watch it on a shitty stream on Watch Wrestling 24. But that's more of a personal thing. I gotta watch your shitty American political commercials, and that's a whole other forest fire that I'm not even gonna touch. The other thing, though, and where I have to give NXT a bit of credit, and where I've given them a lot of leeway, is how many people are injured right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the case at this point in time.
Like Balor, O'Reilly, Ridge Holland, Karrion Kross, Tegan Knox, and it's not just the number of people, but look at the people on that list. How many of them were in the process of getting really good pushes? We were fantasy booking Kross versus Balor for a while. Ridge Holland isn't particularly exciting, but he's obviously part of a bigger story. Tegan Knox has been on the rise forever, and that girl can't catch a break.
Yeah, every time she starts, she's forced to stop. These injuries have plagued her for far too long. And Ridge, he was going up against Undisputed Era. That was going to be a huge, moment for him. And
he's destroyed. He's completely taken out one ankle and the opposite knee and something else.
Yeah, both legs. That's awful.
He fell apart on that bad dive, and I don't know that it was his fault or the other guy's fault, but that was you never want to see anybody get hurt, but that was an injury that I would call gross.
Yeah, that was unsettling to say the least, and I feel so bad for him. Just literally a week before, had this big storyline happen, and then the next week, a bad landing, and unfortunately you catch a guy and roll backwards. And even worse than that, this is why I keep saying that, they keep doing these dives and those need to stop. It's become incessant in wrestling. Dive, 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 dive. But especially without the crowd there, what's the point? You're not popping anybody.
But you know what the thing is though, and I'm not a wrestler, and I will not speak as if I know what these guys go through because it's not my place. But I think there needs to be an equality there because the guys doing the dives aren't the ones necessarily getting hurt. Like if you're playing baseball, you got to learn how to pitch and catch. If you're the bigger guy that's not going to be doing the dives, you still have to know what they're doing. You have to be the catcher.
Yeah.
It's that old adage of your number one job in a wrestling match is to take care of your opponent.
Yeah, you got to take care of the other guy.
But also you have to take care of yourself. And then the last one is sort of a 2-in-1 deal. Last time you and I spoke, we were going into into TakeOver 31, and we were previewing Kyle O'Reilly versus Finn Balor, and those dudes killed each other.
Yeah, literal slugfest.
Like, amazing match. For me, who didn't know anything about Kyle O'Reilly until he came to NXT with the Undisputed Era, huge eye-opening moment for me. I want to see this guy go to the moon now.
Yeah, he is capable of so much. You've only seen a glimpse of what he's capable of, honestly.
I mean, that was an amazing show overall, but we got to talk about, briefly, the Capitol Wrestling Center.
I'm enjoying the change. I like the look. I really do like the fact that they're able to have a minimal amount of fans in there, because any live voices certainly adds to the overall, feel of the environment. And it's sorely missed. Live crowds are just, oh my God, I can't wait for that to come back, certainly. But I like the look of it, and I like the layout. It's a good change.
And you don't even recognize the PC.
Like no, I was thinking, its own thing entirely.
I was thinking, okay, like it's the PC. They're maybe they're gonna cover up the performance center thing, or they're gonna close the door to the gym, or something to that effect. And they're not in your face with the Thunderdome aspect of it, which is great, because the Thunderdome, we shit on it, before it actually happened. I don't mind it, but it is really in your face and over the top, whereas what they've done here with the mix of the small live crowd and a little bit of digital crowd behind, it's a nice mix. As simple as it sounds, the fencing around the ring gives it a little bit of that old school Monday Night Raw is War feeling.
Absolutely.
I think they knocked it out of the park, and I think, not to be too metaphorical, the difference between the Capitol Wrestling Center and the Thunderdome is the difference between what NXT is and what main roster WWE is.
Yeah, main roster is all about production values. So
I will say though, seeing the Bronson Reed entrance in the Capitol Wrestling Center is awesome. That King Kong marching through the buildings thing.
Yeah,
is pretty
that
cool.
And Priest's entrance as well, the way the fire goes around.
Oh, Priest's entrance has always been great. Even when he was just regularly in Full Sail, that graphic.
Yeah, even that was very cool. But now, because the way the Thunderdome screens are around the CWC,
it's all encompassing.
Fire trails. Yeah, it's very awe-inspiring.
I think that's something they've gained with both, though. To be fair, they have gained that with the Thunderdome as well. Like, how awesome is the Fiend's entrance in the Thunderdome?
Yeah, with the laser lights and the entire, like you said, it's all encompassing. Yeah. So the lights and screens are all the way around the ring. I wish they could keep a portion of that for when fans get back, because it's just such a spectacle. But
you know what I would love to see when the fans come back, because we've shown that we can do the ring apron, the digital ring apron around the ring.
Yes.
Why can't they do that on the inside of the guardrails? Have the fans fill the arenas as soon as we can get fans back, but the inside of the guardrails is a surface that they've never really looked at. And we know that they can do it because they do it with the ring apron, and people get thrown into that. So you're still going to be throwing people into the guardrail. Do that in that sort of alleyway around the ring. I think that's where you get the mix.
Because that's never been touched, so that's extremely unique.
Yeah, I mean, I am old school. I want to go back to the old wrought iron fence guardrails, but I don't think we're ever going to get that. WWE likes that long, continuous, the sleek-looking black ones. So if you're going to go for the sleek look, take advantage of it. Don't put a digital readout where you could have a fan. I think that's a step in the wrong direction. but they're playing around with the Thunderdome with graphics on the roof. Keep doing the graphics on the roof thing. Full Sail's done that for the longest time. They have that small graphic piece that sits above the ring in Full Sail. It's not something that's completely out of the realm of possibility.
No, and then they also had, with digital layovers, different things for people's entrances and whatnot that floats above the audience, and it's all CGI, but it works out. It adds to the production value.
See, the CGI thing, there's not a single one of those that works for me. What really hits it home for me is, new heel Roman Reigns, like, walking out between his own legs.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, like...
That was one I wouldn't use, but there's some that come up.
Yeah.
The snake for Orton doesn't look bad.
Big giant sperm.
Yeah. The McIntyres, and, when they show it, there's certain things that look pretty decent. So.
Yeah. I don't know. What I will say, once we get fans back, I want to see the fans. I want to take a break from the match and just pan around and see all the fans. Like, we need it, man. The TV watching audience at home needs to see the fans there, because we enjoy the show through them for a great majority of our enjoyment.
Yeah,
because
we're vicariously enjoying it all through them. I mean, that's how it's.
I mean, all you have to do is look at WrestleMania this year to see it ain't there.
No, I still wish they did WrestleMania not with the empty arena, with just a minimal amount of fans. They could have figured it out. If AEW did it, they could have done it.
Yeah, but for all the flack that WWE gets for not being safe, when all this bullshit first started,
it was demanding them to close down WrestleMania entirely.
It was terrible and it was sad. But I'm glad they dodged at least that bullet, because...
Oh, I'm thankful we got a WrestleMania compared to nothing. Granted, yeah. This is just beggars being choosers.
The ones I feel bad for in that situation are Rhea Ripley and Drew McIntyre. Because Drew McIntyre's moment was a long time coming. Rhea Ripley's first ever WrestleMania in front of nobody. Like, everybody else involved was kind of either not a big part of the show. Like, Austin Theory and people like that were there. But, like, they were there just sort of filling roles. These were people that were having their prime moment in front of nobody.
Yeah, their WrestleMania moment that they worked so hard to achieve, and they never got that great ovation and send-off.
Yeah, but, like, if you look at the Rhea Ripley-Charlotte situation specifically, like, Charlotte has had WrestleMania moments. Like, this wasn't her first.
Multiple.
Yeah.
Charlotte didn't need to win there. That shouldn't have happened. As we know, she did nothing for NXT. She didn't elevate the women's roster whatsoever, going back down to NXT.
Yeah, we can see what they were trying to do. I know a lot of people...
I know what they were going for. It was a failed experiment.
You can see it right now with Finn Balor, what they were trying to do with Charlotte, but what they forgot is that Charlotte commits the two cardinal sins of being white and blonde and successful. Sorry, that's 3. So she's not allowed to have success. Anyways, a little bit of speculation, because only previewing a 4-match card isn't much for us to talk about. I sent it to you the other day. Speculation for Survivor Series of a mixed tag match between The Fiend and Alexa Bliss and Karrion Kross and Scarlett.
I would be absolutely awful.
I am all down for this. There's people out there that are saying that they're sick of the brand versus brand versus brand because it's kind of cut and paste. But if you threw this on there just as a one-off, don't even make it about, like, Raw versus NXT. Just, hey, I'm knocking on your door, you're knocking on my door. It's not like they don't start feuds through social media these days.
Yeah, we've seen that happen. It's actually become more prevalent recently. Yeah. So, yeah, that works absolutely. But I don't think WWE can resist having the brand versus brand option there, because that's their focal point of Survivor Series, at least the past how many years now?
Yeah, and see, I don't want it to. I kind of like NXT being involved because it does prove them as the third brand. If they're gonna have it that their next takeover is a separate weekend and this is their participation in this weekend, I'm a lot more for it. Back-to-back NXT nights, the way it happened the previous year, I thought it was going to be good. I think it was a little bit of an overload for some people.
It was an overload, and it was too much for the wrestlers. I'm sorry, but
that's too.
The War Games, they killed themselves and then had to wrestle hellacious matches the next night, and
To be fair, we don't, like I said before, we don't speak for them. There's probably a lot of them that wanted to get out there and prove that they could do it on back-to-back nights. But
Oh, I'm sure.
for the
but
safety and security, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, to do
things have slowed down now because of the pandemic, obviously, because they're not touring constantly. But at that point in time, they were still the machine. You know, they were touring every week. They're going everywhere. They were very, very busy. And so for them, I know the NXT people weren't touring, but you know, the main roster, and
Yeah.
it's just, you know, constant. All right, we got to go here, we got to go there. Oh, we're going here for takeovers as well. So it was you know, a very grueling schedule. And
I think you could have
that.
done it if it wasn't War Games, because saying you're going to do a War Games match and then do anything the next day
Yeah.
is a bit ridiculous. The Fiend and Bliss versus Cross and Scarlett. I mean, again, a lot of people know Killer Cross from before he was in NXT. I don't. I like what I see so far, and I haven't seen Scarlett wrestle, so there's a curiosity factor there. It won't surprise anybody. I said this on the NXT review in my last podcast there. It won't surprise anybody. I love The Fiend and Alexa Bliss. This gimmick has come together way more than anybody thought it would. When she popped up in the Wyatt Swamp fight thing, and everyone, oh, that's really stupid. They just wanted to throw a chick in there. They put Alexa Bliss in there because, you know, tits. I'm like, except she's pulling it off great. Like,
And it worked with the story that people overlooked because that was the one thing that Braun cared about. And then him going into the swamp made him a monster and no longer care about her or anybody. That was the point behind it that people seem to overlook.
And see, the thing about it is, too, and this is, like, I'm very hesitant to mention last year's Hell in the Cell, because the ending of Wyatt versus Rollins was a shit show. But before the ending, there were a lot of elements in that Hell in the Cell match that were like horror movie elements, and it became campy and cheesy and whatever. And what I see now is they're playing, a lot of people are accusing WWE of playing off, oh my god, they've just turned Alexa Bliss into this corny B-movie, like, final girl. And I'm like, yeah, and it's fucking awesome.
And it's working. And they also made The Fiend less zombie-like now. You know, he is less indestructible. And
I would almost love to see this become sort of like a Beauty and the Beast type of dynamic.
That's kind of how I was looking at it, honestly. She's got Stockholm Syndrome, being brainwashed by her captor. She even said she was brainwashed, you know, so...
And I'm sorry, I know they did it to Zelina Vega and Andrade, who a lot of people don't really care about right now, but the synchronized Sister Abigail's is fucking beautiful.
Oh, it was too sweet. Absolutely perfect. They nailed that, and the timing was excellent. Couldn't have, you know, asked for anything more from both of them.
And I mean, I think it's intentionally corny, the way that Bliss has sort of slotted into this role after being, I don't want to say stuck because I like Nikki Cross as well, but she was sort of like typecast into that tag team scene for a while away from the main women's championship. The way that she switched gears into this, yes, I'm biased because I'm a fan, sue me, but she's done it great. And I would really love to see this match, and I'm really sad that we're probably just doing Twitter speculation.
I mean, even if we don't get that match, hopefully we get something with those two in a mixed tag, or you know, I would like to see some form of that.
I mean, to bring in the sad reality of the whole thing, it would depend first and foremost on whether he's healthy or not, because we don't know where he's.
Yeah, I know we don't know where Cross is yet, so.
Anyways, so let's not be sad about that. Let's talk about Halloween Havoc next week, or I should say this week. For those of you that know, I always put my cards on the table. Jake and I are recording this on Friday before SmackDown. This will probably go out Tuesday before Halloween.
It is Tuesday, you liar.
Yeah. Time machines. I got Tony Stark on speed dial. My time machine is almost working. What I might have to do, if they drop us some last-minute announcements before the show, I might have to put in a little insert or something here. So if there was a little bit of a awkward insert at the beginning, it's because we got some news last minute. So sorry, but I do have speculation on two matches that we might be getting on this show, just to sort of flesh it out and make it feel more like a special show. First one's not as exciting because it will be a rematch, but it is another round of Swerve versus Escobar. We saw that amazing six-man last week with Swerve's new buddies, Ashanti the Adonis and Jake Atlas is fucking insane, by the way.
Very impressive so far. So
like that running block into the Spanish Fly off the apron into everybody.
Yeah, that was next level.
Like,
That's something I've never seen pulled off before. So.
that shouldn't have, like, physics-wise, that shouldn't have worked. Apparently, he almost landed on his face, though, so that's kind of bad.
Yeah,
We don't need any more
yikes.
injuries. But, I
No.
mean, the thing is, I would love to see. The only problem I have with Jake Atlas is I think we're shifting the focus from Swerve to Atlas. So, I mean, if they threw on Atlas versus Escobar, I wouldn't mind that in the slightest either. As much as everybody loves his finisher, that tilt-a-whirl DDT thing, I hate to say this because it's wrestling and it's what wrestling does. That move, as good as it is a little bit wrestling ballet for me.
You think?
A little bit.
Like too much setup versus impact? Yeah.
No, it's
It looks more theater-like. I understand what you're going for. It's more, it floats around.
He's doing a pretty move for the sake of a pretty move, not for the sake of the impact. And I'm aware
you're not adding more force to it.
Yeah, I'm aware that opens me up to a whole shitload of stuff in the comments because we have the people's elbow and the worm and all kinds of other. I get it, but it's in amongst this guy who shows us he can do wicked spots like that.
Well, I think because everything he does is so serious and straightforward and heavy-handed, and he does float around the ring, but lo and behold, we see him practically fly and defy gravity most times. But he does it in a realistic way. So when you see moves that are overly theatrical, I can understand why it takes you out of it.
Well, I said, and I'm pretty sure you tuned in for my review last week. It will be because This is Tuesday that we're talking. I did compare it to the time warp thing just doesn't work. It's gonna fuck my brain up. I'm not even gonna try. It does fall into a little bit of the category of, if you remember old school WCW when they had their cruiserweight division, which was on fire. Let's be fair. But a criticism that they got was, like, you had all these guys that would do these, like, triple gainer, almost like Young Bucks for their time type offense, but then the match would end with, like, a DDT.
Or a count out.
Or not a count out, but like if you just show me that you can do like a triple whammy body splash off the top in the middle of the match, and your finisher is a power slam.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that a power slam's not a good move. It just ends on a whimper. It ends on a wet fart.
Exactly. And you're going from a 5-star to a 1-star finish. Yeah.
I think if Jake Atlas wants to have that tilt-a-whirl DDT, because the coordination it takes to do it, don't get me wrong, is fantastic. But everything else he does before it seems like it should be the finisher instead. So he's outperforming himself, which is a really good problem to have, I guess.
It is.
But either Escobar or Swerve getting on the... I know it's a weekly episode of NXT, but we've been pressing forever to get that title on the more special shows. Either one of those could be a decent thing. I'm starting to think that they should have given it to Swerve at 31. I don't know where you go from there, per se, unless you want to have, like, Escobar send one of his other guys. Like, if you want to specifically put a focus on, say, what's his name? Joaquin Wild. I keep on calling him DJ Z still.
I always forget his name, too.
Like, if it's a case of, like, you know, Escobar loses the title, so he sends one of his minions to go win it back for the group. You could do a lot of interesting stuff with that, but
if they have plans to build someone else up, but I think that's why they didn't go with Swerve. So
at the end of the day, if they do have a cruiserweight title match on this week's show, whatever combination it is going to have the shades of a rematch, because it is going to be further fallout from 31, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but they need to build it up a little bit more. When they did the draft, I would have loved separately as individual, more serious wrestlers. I wouldn't have minded them bringing the 3 guys from Lucha House Party into NXT.
No, because they can wrestle and they put on, technically great matches. It's just their characters are lacking, and they were treated much better in NXT. So
yeah, the long-awaited return of Sin Cara 1 and Sin Cara 2.
They were treated like stars in NXT that had real talent, as where in the SmackDown Raw main roster side of things, they're just a comedy triple, team.
And they're not gonna. Apparently, they're just turning Kalisto into an asshole. So that's a thing.
They're kind of splitting them up, and
they split them up, and they split the New Day up. And I've just sort of made the joke already that okay, they put 2 on Raw, 1 on SmackDown, so now you're gonna have Big E, and he's gonna magically team up with the Street Profits, and Kofi and Xavier Woods are gonna team up with R-Truth, and at Survivor Series you're gonna have New Day 1 versus New Day 2.
Yeah, who's the real New Day?
And that's gonna be terrible. Anyway, moving on. The other one is one that we teed up last week. With a post-match assault, is the return of Ember Moon could be a whole podcast in and of itself.
Absolutely.
But the surprise
she's done
attack,
well since returning.
The surprise attack by Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai is the perfect first opponent for Ember Moon coming back, because she's had.
It's not somebody she can just bowl over, but it certainly is someone that'll give her a good challenge and really put her back on the map.
Well, it is, but like I don't think anybody would argue really that even though she's just come back, Ember Moon is the bigger star than Dakota Kai. With not slighting on Dakota Kai at all. But
no doubt. But there's also fans that are more current and maybe have only been watching NXT not on the network on USA and aren't familiar with Ember Moon because she's been out for quite some time now. So this is a good way to reintroduce her to fans, and to show that she's effective in the ring.
Yeah. Well. No, you're right, and the more broad factor to think of is who's more familiar with who. But if you've been following NXT for the long term, I do think Ember Moon's the bigger star. She's actually had the success.
She absolutely is. She's
had
the champion.
She's got the former champion. She's had some main roster experience, if you want to even consider that a good thing. Dakota Kai, to your point, if people are watching with a more recent bias in their viewing, she's the one that has been in that title picture more recently. So I think they're a good mix. And Ember Moon's just so cool, and Dakota Kai is such a good bitch. Like it's criminal to me that a match potentially this good is their women's undercard.
I know, not even for the title.
Yeah, we're just talking about this is a match that might happen.
Right on AEW, we can't even get a women's match.
Oh, I wasn't even going there, but you are right. Oh, what was her name? Statlander. Apparently, probably not coming back till the end of next year now.
Yeah, originally they said March. Now it's even later, she thinks, and
that's a bummer because she's
just
so
ahead of
fun.
Where she's supposed to be,
but not where she wants to be.
Yeah.
That's such a bummer because she's just so, like, to say nothing about her talent in the ring, obviously, but she's just such a fun character.
She is. I like the alien gimmick. I think it's been interesting. And
like she pulls off.
I like her ability.
She pulls off the fun. She pulls off the fun character and the goofy character in a way that doesn't make you embarrassed to watch it.
Yes.
And that's important.
Totally outlandish.
That's important with the comedy because I think we can all say all 3 members of the New Day are talented as fuck. Whether you like Kofi Kingston or whether you don't, his Mania moment when he won the title was a huge deal. Big E's gonna win it next. It's gonna be a big deal. But there are moments of New Day comedy that I would hide away my non-wrestling fans from.
Yeah, their time machine stuff and a lot of the stuff they do with the Wyatts.
They do stuff that works for wrestling fans purely because it's got the label of wrestling on it. The Statlander stuff keeps away from that sort of dangerous line, and it just works. It's either she's going to come out, she's going to do her particular gimmick, and either you're going to say I'm on board or I'm not. But she does it in such a reserved kind of way that even the people that it doesn't work for, it's not going to get on you.
Exactly. It's not overly stated. It's very minimal.
And I mean,
so it's just enough that you know what's going on, but it's not rammed down your throat either. So it's not a huge barrier to entry.
And I mean, they also have a dinosaur and people swimming in orange juice. So
yeah,
I really wasn't going to take shots at AEW tonight because I actually thought their episode this week was really good. The matches are really good. Apparently Phoenix is fucked up and Penta's taking his place next week.
Yeah,
everybody's getting injured, like fucking everybody. Joey Janela might have COVID. Like, what the fuck is happening?
That's its own issue, but I feel bad for Phoenix because this was going to be a really big match for him, and I mean, eventually maybe he'll get it, but.
And I mean, for the people who it works for, Penta versus Kenny Omega is something to sit there and jerk over.
Oh, it's still a great matchup, no doubt. I mean, either way you go with it.
Yeah.
Lucha Bros, that was the best match Wednesday.
I would love to believe that tournament. Okay, we're diverting now. I would love to believe that tournament is not already set in stone. Because what it feels like to me is you're burying 6 other guys to get to a rivalry that we know is already happening, and to me already feels like it's dragged out too long. And I think that's so unfortunate. Like, the way they did Sunny Kiss dirty on AEW, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Like, really, really, really dirty. And Kenny Omega's entrance was written by John Cena. I'm sorry. it just was. Anyways, I will say, AEW and NXT had a shitty week 2 weeks ago. They had a great week last week, both shows, for different reasons. And, I will love to see how AEW counter programs to Halloween Havoc.
Yeah, I'm curious as well. Before we actually get into the pay-per-view, too, how do you feel about the addition of, the spin the wheel, make a deal stipulation? Because we haven't seen that since, the 92 Halloween Havoc pay-per-view? I think was the last time they used it.
And see, here's the thing. For as excited as I am for the return of Halloween Havoc, I wasn't watching WCW. Like, I was never a huge WCW fan. Anything that I've gone back and watched now, it's because somebody's come to me and said, oh, man, you got to go back and check out this. The whole Hogan Warrior...
I'm the exact same way. I didn't watch any WCW.
The whole Hogan Warrior thing where, like, the flash paper didn't work properly, so he just threw paper at him and shit. So, like, I don't have the deep... Like, my connection to this is specifically, I love Halloween. Period. Like, I love the holiday. I've gone on record in multiple conversations saying it's the only holiday on the calendar year that doesn't have any bullshit attached to it. It's just fun. I'm really bummed this year. Like, I'm not a kid. I'm not going trick-or-treating, but I love Halloween enough to know that other kids can't go trick-or-treating, and that bums me out.
Yeah.
So I love this. I don't love this because it's WCW nostalgia. I love it because I knew it was a thing out there in the ether that had to do with Halloween, and I'm like, we need to bring Halloween into wrestling. Like, this needs to be a thing. The spin the wheel thing is a corny as fuck concept. And it belongs on a Halloween show, because I think a Halloween show is designed to be corny. It's intentionally corny. You don't go to the movie theater and watch The Meg and look at it in the same regard that you watch The Shawshank Redemption.
That's a great point there.
Like, it really is, like, you don't watch ECW and expect Benoit Guerrero. I mean, even though Benoit Guerrero did happen in ECW, that was a really shitty example. You don't watch old school ECW hardcore matches and expect Brian Punk.
Yes.
You have to know what you're going in for, and that's why it's so possible, and that's why I'm looking at this in such a biased way. Like, the cheesy stuff here is going to be intentionally cheesy, not something that they've done or that WWE has done or whatever that they thought was going to be really cool that just sucked. And
as long as we don't get the coal miners glove match again.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I'm intentionally leaving those 2 matches for last because I have a theory, and it's a very selfish theory about how one of those matches is going to go. But we'll start at the bottom. What did I say to you last Wednesday? Because it's Tuesday now. We're in a time warp. They just announced a match with 2 guys that I don't care about that I am inexplicably interested in. It is the Haunted House of Terrors match between Dexter Lumis and... I can't do it as good as Adam Wilborn, but Cameron Grimes.
Yeah. This is going to be a cinematic match, it sounds like, and I'm all for it with these 2 characters. You got the serial killer and the LSD freak. I don't know what to call Cameron Grimes, but that works for me. I don't even know if God knows what they have in store for this. I mean, really, when you think about it, there are so many possibilities. And when you think about how outlandish WWE has been willing to get since the pandemic began, with all the matches, we've seen the Hell in a Cells and the Money in the Bank, actually turn into a whole spectacle of a cinematic match. But if you look at how deep and totally crossed the line they went with the Firefly Funhouse match, anything's possible, I feel like.
See, I don't I think the Firefly Funhouse was the best and worst thing that they've done this year, because it was phenomenal. It required a huge amount of, okay, I'm going to take that hit from John Cena, because that whole match was just a critique on his career.
Yes.
And what you had going into that match, or what you had going into the structure of that match, was them paying homage to every criticism the fans have ever had about John Cena.
Yeah, why hasn't he turned heel? And yeah, they did a great job of it.
But for that to work, you need to have years and years and years and years and years of people being sick of John Cena.
And prior knowledge to,
I don't think there's enough. There's not a lot of characters that they have right now that have that much built up, good or bad, to tell a long and detailed and like Easter egg riddled story like Wyatt and Cena. Wyatt and Cena, yeah. I think that's going to be like a once in a lifetime thing.
Oh, surely, but I don't think we'll get anything on the level of that. But what I'm saying is they can go as outlandish and crazy as that. Then for a Halloween themed show, I'm sure we're going to get something that's pretty spooktastic.
Yeah, and like the opposite side of the coin, because like I say, two guys I don't care about in a match that I'm kind of interested about. The opposite of that was One Final Beat, because One Final Beat was the serious version of this, where they were able to hit on each point of their particular feud. And I thought that was brilliant too. I think this is going to go wacky. I think we're getting into like Dr. Britt Baker's dentist office level corny.
I think we're going to see something like that as well. But I'm hoping it's presented much better than the AEW tooth and nail match.
I mean, a weekly episode of NXT doesn't have a kickoff, but if it did, I would put this on the kickoff. But
maybe they'll open the show with it.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think they will. I think they're going to open with one of the spin the wheel matches and close with one of the spin the wheel matches, because on these special episodes, we always go back to last year's December 18th episode. They do like to bookend.
Yeah, they always like to do that.
They like to start strong and end strong, and
because they want to suck people in and then have them there at the end.
If you want me to be perfectly honest with you, I think they're going to start with Priest and Johnny, and end with Candice and Io.
I think Candice and Io are the bigger of the two matches. So.
Of course. Oh, trust me, that's where my theory comes in.
And I like the way that Johnny was kind of selling that. Oh, great, you'll be champion and I'll be dead.
Everybody knows I hate wheels.
They just unpredictable.
I love this version of Johnny and Candice.
Yeah,
I love this version of Johnny and Candice. It's so fucking. They were sitting at their dinner table with the training wheel.
That's funny on so many levels.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna get shot for this. Jake. So if you want to step to one side. Johnny and Candice, Dinner with the Garganos with the training wheel, was better than Le Dinner Debonair.
Really, you think so?
I do.
Wow, maybe you are getting shot, because I'll take the bullet for you if it's in the arm or the leg, but that's about it. No, I would think I prefer the Dinner Debonair just because it was so unexpected.
Oh yeah, and again, I'm talking.
That's a personal out.
When I say better, I'm talking like 1 and 1A.
Yes.
Not by much. Mostly, it comes down to I'm more invested in NXT than I am in AEW.
Well, that's the thing. I can see those characters drawing you in more, and Candice and Johnny have done a great job at keeping us invested.
Yeah, and the type of sarcasm that these two have going right now is right up my street. The stuff that they're doing with Indy Hartwell out of nowhere, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, that's compelling as well, because what are her real motivations? Is she just wanting to help the Garganos as much as she seems she does, or is there something that she's hoping to gain? I mean,
I just love the fact that they're so aggressively, transparently shitty that they're like, oh, she left us a present. Who the hell is she? Who'd she ever beat? And then they give her a TV. It's like, I always liked that girl. I'm gonna keep an eye on her.
Yeah.
And then obviously she came into the number one contenders match with the Brass Knucks and whatever, and it was
a great deal.
Even that was a sidekick at the outside of the ring, passing a weapon moment that didn't come off overly scripted or contrived either. Like
it slid pretty well into the background. It wasn't overstated.
They're in this unique They're in this unique, brand new environment of the CWC. It boggles my mind because I hear CWC and I still think the Cruiserweight Classic.
Yes,
But they're
I always go back to this as well.
but they're in the CWC, so she literally slipped out of the curtain because there's one side that has no fans where they have all the cameras and whatnot. She literally slipped out from behind the curtain. Normally that's just a metaphor.
Yeah.
So good. It'll be cool to see how she factors into it. But I'll leave the Garganos for a second, and we'll get rid of the one other women's match, potentially 3 women's matches from what we've been saying.
I'm really looking forward to this one. Rhea Ripley going one-on-one with Gonzalez here. So Raquel Gonzalez, they've got some obvious bad history between these two, and there's no stipulation for this match, correct?
That's what I've got here, literally on my notes. But then somebody else mentioned something to me that might factor into it as well.
Okay.
I do like what they're doing with Ripley because she's on her way to the championship, but she's taking a roundabout way to get there, and I don't mind that. She was like almost disgusted by the fact that she had to like wipe the Robert Stone brand off her boot. She looked at Aaliyah like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? She looked at Robert Stone like, what the fuck are you doing? And now she's taking on a bigger giant in Raquel Gonzalez.
Yeah. Granted, at that time, it felt like those matches were beneath her. But now I'm trying, not trying, but I'm seeing more of the story that they're telling with her and how, this is going to be her full road to redemption. Because originally you look at it, it's like, oh, it's a pretty piss poor 2020 for her. She goes ahead and loses at Mania, and from there she's kind of been cast aside and not really in the limelight like she was.
But you know what? I don't even mind her going up against people that are beneath her. And it sounds like I'm
the story that they're telling, because it's in a sense it will come full circle. And they're not just giving her that redemption arc, but they're also letting her build her way back up with the fans.
Yeah.
So it feels more natural.
But I don't mind somebody like her that's in a higher position stopping and taking a minute to remind the people that are in a lower position where their place is. And that sounds really terrible to Aaliyah, my hometown girl, and all that. But you do need that. What's a good example I can think of? It's the middle of the Royal Rumble. Austin and The Rock are killing each other. And the next person into the Rumble who thinks he's really going to make a difference is the Hurricane.
Yeah.
Like, you need those moments. You need to, like...
that bit of levity.
You need the bit of levity, but you also need to, like, okay, I've fallen down. I've failed. I'm in a bit of a bad spot. But at least I'm not these losers. Like, you get that moment, and now you've switched into a different part of the roster. And... It's very sexist of me, because on the men's side, I kind of hate it. Like, back in the day when you had constantly, like, Big Show versus Kane versus Mark Henry. Look at all that mass and power in the ring, when meanwhile, it's just a boring 3 slow guys bumming around. We've never really had, like, the Battle of the Giants between the women. Like, if she was still alive, God rest her soul and all that sort of thing, can you imagine what somebody like China would do for a Rhea Ripley?
Oh my God, she would make her look like $1 million, I'm sure, with how popular she was, and to see Rhea, that'd be a huge put over.
Now, with that in mind, I think we're getting interference in this match.
Yeah, you think so?
I do, because what was her last big win? What was Rhea Ripley's last big win?
What, with the Robert Stone brand?
The cage match with Mercedes Martinez.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Mercedes Martinez has been removed from Retribution.
Yeah, she's no longer there, and that's a great point that I did not even consider. Wow.
I didn't think about it until somebody was talking about it earlier today. It's like, Mercedes Martinez, why would they pull her out of Retribution? She's, as much as I like Mia Yim, she's like a better get for a faction.
Yeah, she was
like
better
that.
suited for Retribution.
But I'm going to go out on a wild limb here. I think this match has a non-finish because of the interference of Mercedes Martinez, and then they sort of leave it alone for a while. Their next takeover is, I believe, in December. I don't think they're doing a takeover in November. But
I've heard no currently, but it doesn't mean anything because they've announced it a month out. So.
Which is fine because, they don't necessarily have to share a weekend with Survivor Series. I'm cool with that. But if they do this and then they sort of leave it alone for a bit and then reheat it in December, Mercedes versus Gonzalez versus Ripley have the female version of the Battle of the Monsters, I'm 100% in on that.
Yeah, that really sounds like a great idea.
Because it is an overused trope, but again, it's not something that we've done in the women's division. It's like we said with Pat McAfee. Oh my God, the whole like celebrity thing's been way overdone, but we've never seen how NXT tackles the celebrity thing, and they ended up doing it great.
They knocked that out of the park. That was
The Battle of the
home run and a half.
The Battle of the Giants thing is a trope that's so overdone. I mean, how many times do you think in the next year we're going to see Wardlow versus Archer, for example? It's throw Cage in there eventually. It's gonna get old. The same thing is gonna happen with, I don't know, Keith Lee and Braun Strowman. They're already doing it to death.
Yeah, substitute one big guy for another.
But the women's division has never been so diverse as it is right now. They've never had a chance to tackle that trope, and because the women in WWE right now are bigger stars than the men, I don't mind saying that across the board. I think they could make something classic out of this, and I think the winner of the match literally will be Rhea Ripley, obviously, because she's the star. She's eventually going to get her retribution and go back for the title again. But I think the one that ends up getting elevated in that match is Gonzalez.
I agree with that, and I'm going to go with you. I'm going to say we get some sort of DQ finish. And as far as the match before this goes, I think Dexter Lumis is going to win. I forgot to say that as well, but
you know what?
I think Dexter Lumis will win over Cameron. So
I think it's going to be something that's so silly that eventually ends up with they brawl into the darkness. I'm
one of those where
I'm predicting, like, if it is going to be like cheesy, campy, like pre-recorded something. I hadn't heard that, but now that you've put that in my head, I think it's going to be one of those things that's just like we saw these guys fight for a while. And
last I heard, it was set to be some type of cinematic match. So.
Well, you guys are way better on the actual like news update stuff than I am. I literally go by what they said on the show, which was 2 days ago. But now that we're listening to this on Tuesdays, 5 or 6 days ago. The time warp.
Do you think Shotzi will end up having a match, or just be the host throughout?
My friend, I promise you, I'm getting there. I promise you, I'm getting there. I have a huge theory. I think Raquel Gonzalez wins, or no. Rhea Ripley.
She's elevated.
For this show, I think Rhea Ripley gets the win by DQ because she'll be attacked by Martinez. She'll be upset that she got attacked. Raquel Gonzalez will be upset that Mercedes cost her the match. That's how you get to your triple threat later on down the line. Lumis and Grimes, I think, is going to be a no contest. Now, the Garganos with the spin the wheel, make the deal. Before we talk about these matches, I want to talk about all the options that are on this wheel. Devil's Playground, Coal Miner's Glove on a Pole, Chamber of Horrors, Tables, Ladders, and Scares, Biker Chain Match, Weapons Wild Match, Boiler Room Brawl, Blindfold Match, Trick or Street Fight, Buried Alive, Casket Match, and Shotzi's Choice. Now, there's going to be...
Someone's getting that Trick or Street Fight, I'm telling you.
Yeah. I don't think Candice or Johnny are going to win either of their matches because the way their characters are right now, the two of them collectively can say that Shotzi had it out for them. How can we win a show that's hosted by somebody that hates us? It will contribute more to their characters to lose than to win. I think whatever Johnny and Priest's match is will probably start the night. I think they will have a ridiculous match. I think it would be amazing if he actually does land on the Buried Alive match.
That would be funny.
Because Priest isn't necessarily like a ghost monster type character, but he does sort of fit into that sort of, whatever you want to call it, like that Fiend, Undertaker, Kane category. The same way Karrion Kross isn't really a monster, but he fits into that category. So the aesthetic of a match like that, or if not that, something completely stupid, like you say, the Coal Miner's Glove on a pole match, or the Devil's Playground, whatever the hell that is. Or something,
God knows what that's going to be.
Something silly like a Biker's Chain. I do think Priest wins. I think I get that not everybody's on board with Priest. And I think last time
he's growing on me. He's impressing me more and more. Yeah, last time we talked, I wasn't all about his character. Like I was still feeling him out and seeing how he was going to be as a champion. and he's been impressive. So
Yeah.
I give him that.
I've been with him
I've been enjoying him more
since I saw the debut of his gimmick. I will say what I said when we talked about TakeOver 31. I will still say that he is more gimmick than wrestler,
Yes.
but that's not to say that he's a bad wrestler. I think uh,
But his wrestling's improved as well.
Oh, but that's what I mean, though. Like, me
Yeah.
saying that he's more character than wrestler isn't to say that his wrestling is bad. It's just to say that
No,
his
no, not
character
at
is
all.
better.
Absolutely.
I think he is. I think Johnny, in this snivelly heel, sarcastic, self-deprecating heel role that he's in, is making Priest look like $1 million. And the fact that Priest can just go, oh my god, I gotta fight this guy again, like almost wanting to flick him off like a tick.
Yeah. Just a
I
pest.
think it all works so well. Very much like we were just saying about Rhea Ripley having to shake off the bug that was Aaliyah and Robert Stone and all that sort of thing. I think he's doing a more serious version of that. Like, come on, man! Like, I kicked your ass. Like, can I have somebody else, please? Type thing. And realistically, neither one of them should have a match. Both of them have their matches. Oh no, that's actually I'm talking shit. Candice LeRae did technically win her title shot. Johnny has his match because he attacked the champion with a chair. But
so he
then
didn't
again,
really
that's how
deserve
Brody
another
Lee got.
title shot.
That's how Brody Lee got a title shot in AEW. So maybe it is the right thing to do.
But some people were upset because he got the shot originally, and then now he's getting another one, and that was after he just got the NXT title opportunity for the Iron Man match.
Looking at this and looking at how campy Johnny Gargano has been right now and how he's playing, not only that he's scared of the wheel, he's scared that he's going to be killed. He's obviously scared of his opponent because that's the subtext underneath it all. How good would a blindfold match be between these two, especially if we're using it to start the show? Like, I could see him, like, he just stands there for a minute and, like, Priest does nothing. And Johnny just gets so tired of waiting and saying, fucking hit me! Or, like, not swearing, obviously.
Yeah, but
like, that kind of thing. And then, like, just gets, like, punched in the back of the head or something. Now, on the more serious side of things, the match that I'm almost guaranteeing is going to end the show is Candice LeRae, Io Shirai. Now, whatever ridiculousness they put on top of this, these two women are phenomenal.
Yeah, I think this will be the street fight. Even though they did it with the wheel, I think that for some reason it feels like these two are going to end up in a street fight. I think they're going to play off of I've never been beaten in the street fight. They're really going to make it seem like Candice has a shot at winning the title. I don't think either Gargano's going to win here because if you have them win, I feel like they both have to win. I don't think one of them can be champion, especially like if Johnny loses and Candice wins, that's going to destroy him mentally. That you don't want them to be jealous.
And see, that's what I plugged when we were talking about TakeOver 31. I was like,
that's what we thought. We thought it would work, but the more I think about it, the way they've been presenting themselves, I would kind of like to see them both be champions. Originally, I thought it would be a good idea to have him be jealous, but the more I see them interact and the way that they're just such a team and a cohesive unit, but yet he still thinks of himself first.
You can have both.
Yes.
I really do think you can have both. I don't think either is going to happen on this show. I think it could happen at the next proper TakeOver. If she wins the title first and he does the whole, like, toxic masculinity isn't really a thing, but we can make it a fictional thing, and she gets so sick of him being a bitch that she literally goes in and helps him get the title and, like, throws it on his shoulder and, like, here, now you can shut the fuck up, and then they can go on and be the NXT Triple H and Stephanie. I think you can have both. I think if they structure it properly, you can have both. But
they have to be very careful with it. So
we're overlooking one thing in the women's championship match, because one person got screwed.
Yes.
On their way to this show, and she happens to be hosting the show.
Yeah, Shotzi.
And there is a spot on that wheel for Shotzi's choice.
Yes, and she can put herself in the match.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. That being on the wheel, it's like, oh my god, that has to come up. But
it has to come up as Shotzi's choice, and like it could come up for Johnny, and she could just give him something absolutely ridiculous, like
that was my thought. Like maybe she'll screw Johnny over, and that would be what happens, and then we get the street fight for the other one.
Or she just laughs at him, like it's a blindfold match, but only you have a blindfold on, and Damian Priest has a gun. But I would love it.
Are on a pole.
I would love it so much if Shotzi's choice comes up and it's a triple threat and she just throws herself in the match. Because then it's not really bad because it's equal playing field because there's no champion's advantage. There's no such thing as cheating because it's a triple threat match, so you can get the Indy Hartwell stuff in there. There's a little bit of vindication for her getting screwed over 2 weeks ago. I am so sad that I don't think they're actually going to do this.
But think about it. That adds so many other layers because now, all right, no DQ, so we can have the interference, or Candice can win, but she pinned Shotzi due to interference because of Indy, and now Io has to try and get the belt back, but she didn't really lose because she wasn't pinned. So we have that story. Shotzi is pissed because she's going to go after Indy. That'll give her a feud in the meantime. There's ways to make this work. That's not bad. There's so many possibilities with this.
If I'm super selfish, Indy Hartwell interferes on behalf of Candice LeRae, hits Io Shirai with some kind of weapon. Shotzi takes advantage. She wins and says something to the effect of, yeah, you stole my number one contenders match, but I stole your championship opportunity.
Ooh, yeah, because you can think about it like Indy comes in, she blasts Io with a chair. Io's knocked out. Candice goes to pin her. Shotzi throws her out of the ring, gets the pin, is the new champ.
Here's what you do after that. If you play up both ends of that story, then Io Shirai sets the title aside in her mind for a second, goes after Indy for the opportunity, the interference.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you go to one pay-per-view where Indy Hartwell gets to look like $1 million in a match with Io Shirai, and you get the one-on-one title match between Shotzi Blackheart and Candice LeRae.
Very true.
I'm sort of using this show to book what I want for the December takeover, but that's what these little in-between elevated shows need to do.
Yeah, these are the half takeovers essentially.
Yeah, like these don't like it doesn't have to make
what's happening further.
Because of the nature of the show, because of the Halloween Havoc cheesy element, what they do here doesn't have to make sense as long as it gets us to the next thing that we really do want to do. Because if you did that over here, then, okay, now we're holding it to a takeover standard. You can't do the silly story things that got us there. So let's do the silly story things here and get what we want over here. I think there's an amazing thing. I've said, I think you and I have both said it in our own ways, there is no NXT champion right now.
No.
I don't think there should be an NXT champion right now. I think with Balor and Cross both on the shelf, you shelve the title, you make the announcement right now that Balor was stripped without losing, Cross was stripped without losing. Whenever they are both healthy, they will fight and we will have a champion.
Just be patient to have the title until they get back.
But for right now, that title is on the shelf, and tell me that women's division can't handle holding up the main event for a while.
Absolutely, and they can elevate some of the lesser stories too to bring people up in the meantime.
Yeah.
You got McAfee back, so now you got focus on the tag titles as well.
Mm-hmm. Do we want to talk about that swerve there at the end? McAfee.
Last thing, really quick about Halloween Havoc. The only thing we didn't mention, so we have a neat little bow on that, is that Wade Barrett and Vic Joseph also are having a Halloween costume contest. So that is going to be the real main event. Don't you forget.
Vic Joseph, what does Joe call him? The fucking
Nosferatu.
Vampire? Nosferatu. He's got a little bit of a problem with Vic Joseph there.
Just a little one.
Just a little bit.
Just a small little job.
It is hard. It is hard to tell because Joe, we both know, is very reserved and very conservative with keeping his opinion to himself. But if you read between the lines, I think there's something there. I'm an asshole. It's fine.
Hey. One of the things I really like about the Halloween Havoc show is the wheel because it makes it unpredictable. I know some people don't care for it because they like to have things set up beforehand and they want to. I want to know it's a steel cage match or a street fight or this way it can be advertised. But I like the unpredictable nature, and it's not an all the time thing. It's a one off. It's just for the Halloween show, and that, as you said, is in a realm of its own. It's Halloween, it's kooky, it's spooky, it's fun. It's not supposed to be a normal everyday feel. So I hope they also do some fun stuff with the stage. If they could ever bring back the big pumpkin, I think that would be incredible.
Nice. And see, that's you've hit on something there a little bit, because I think there's been I would say in the past 10 years or so, and this is not specific to NXT obviously. I think there's been such a massive change in how fans look at a weekly wrestling show. Like, pay-per-views are different. Pay-per-view, you want to go into a pay-per-view and know exactly what you're getting. But people these days, especially when you talk about stuff like the Wednesday Night War, which I'm not even going to really talk about, but even more so Raw and SmackDown, etc., because there's so many YouTubers, so many podcasters, so many people talking about the shows, we've gotten into this thing now where we look at the show ahead of time, like a weekly episodic episode, and oh my god, they haven't told us what's going to happen. Like, back in the day, you never knew what was going to happen on Monday Night Raw, or Raw is War, or whatever it was in your particular time. You knew that you were probably going to see Austin. Austin was probably going to kick McMahon in the dick at some point, and you were going to see some fun shit. But the whole point was tune in and see what happens next. So I think nowadays, when everybody wants to know the entire card of the weekly show beforehand, I think I don't know whether it's good or bad. I mean, obviously people are going to want what they want and they're going to like what they like, and I'm not here to judge that. But I think that's such a drastic shift from what it used to be. Like, you tuned in to watch the show because you knew the show was going to be good. You didn't tune into the show so that, see, I said that guy was going to get pushed, and now he's getting a push. He lost, but he lost by disqualification, so he's protected. And, like, I shouldn't say this because you and I are in the YWC, IWC podcast world, and we are, if this is a problem, we are definitely part of the problem. But it's so... I don't know what the word is, but people don't want to be surprised anymore, and then they complain that there's no surprises.
Yeah, that's the thing. They want to know everything, but then they're upset that they know everything.
They want to know how the magician does his trick, but then they're saying, well, why doesn't anything wow me anymore? And that's not me criticizing. It just hit me while you were talking there. It's such a drastic shift in how we used to look at things. Like, to the point now where, like, we go into the Royal Rumble and we know who all the participants in the Royal Rumble are. Like, who would have even wanted that 10 years ago?
I still don't at times. I like to be surprised, and that's unfortunate. And, you know, that talks about spoilers and things as well. So, I mean, the spoilers is its own culture. But
I think there's a division there, because spoilers are something you can choose to seek out or not.
Yeah, spoilers and rumors and news.
What I'm talking about is, for better or worse, AEW does it a lot more than WWE. But when you get to the sort of like the ending segment of a Dynamite, they give you the flashcard of this is everything that's happening next week.
Yeah.
I don't want to know everything that's happening next week.
Yeah, so, you should have give us a baseline, like here's your main event maybe, or here's two matches beforehand, but
or
announce a segment, but don't tell you everything that's going to happen.
You know what? Don't tell me the main event. Tell me something that I'm going to see randomly in the middle of the show, so I've got a little bit of a flagpole. It's like, oh, I got that to look forward to. But that's
like this week, all they have to say is we have the tournaments, that's 4 matches, and then we have the dinner segment with Jericho. That's enough. You don't have to list the other matches, the women's match, things like that.
I don't know.
Next week, you're getting those 2 in the town hall. That should be enough.
I mean, like, we all enjoy, like, guys like What Culture, for example, and I listen to the previews and stuff that they do, mostly because I need something to listen to at work. But they'll go to preview a show, and they're like, oh, well, they don't have very much announced, and meanwhile they'll list off, like, the 4 matches that are announced, and I'm like, how much more do you want? People do want it. It's not a shot. It's not a shot out of nowhere, because people do want to know, because they're like. Especially if you're going in, like, the AEW NXT thing. Like, maybe they're deciding what show they're going to watch. And fair enough. But you could stack AEW, and I'm still going to say that NXT is my brand. I'm going to watch that first. I'm going to watch that second. I'll look forward to checking out what they do, like what they did this week. AEW was great. We had some good matches. We did the Dinner Debonair, which was good, just not quite as good as the Garganos. I just think it's so drastically different. But the one thing I will say, the one thing that wasn't spoiled, and this makes for a hell of an embellished transition over, that Pat McAfee reveal last week.
Yes, unfortunately spoiled for me, but I was still extremely happy. I wasn't expecting him to return this soon, and this fits. This is a great opportunity for them to kind of course correct from Ridge Holland getting injured and the Undisputed Era story getting upended because of that. And now with the tag division, they can tell a great story of the rest of Undisputed Era who are probably becoming heels. Do they stray with the face side of UE? And, what does Adam Cole have to say now that Pat's back? There's a lot of intrigue and build up to next week for sure. So that's one of the ways they really had a good idea to combat.
And you know what it is?
AEW's programming.
On the really, really simpler end of things, because you and I have sort of hummed and hawed about the NXT tag division because it's not great, and we hummed and hawed over Breezango not thinking that they were ever going to win anything, and then they did, and we hummed and hawed over Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, and they've finally been given something, because they did a better version of the Cesaro Sheamus thing, like beat the crap out of each other, beat the crap out of each other, beat the crap out of each other, and then became an awesome team.
Yes.
But they are the
bar.
Yeah, they were the perennial bridesmaids though. And it was, I think you could say they were missing a mouthpiece. And if Pat McAfee's going to be their mouthpiece, that's a hell of an act.
All for it.
And if we do, I mean, I don't know when Ridge Holland is coming back, but
not anytime soon.
Not anytime soon. But like you say, like Pat McAfee went away and came back. This could go away again and come back. Talk about maybe next year, maybe in front of crowds. That's a decent War Games match.
Yes, I mean they could have crowds now. Apparently, in the way Florida is. I'm glad they're not rushing back into it though.
Yeah, but again,
I'd rather safety first. And
I was going to say,
to correct myself too. 93 was the last time we saw the spin the wheel make a deal. It was in 93. Halloween Havoc. That's when they had the Texas fight there. What the hell is it called? Come to me. I just thought of it. The Texas Death Match.
Oh, the Chamber of Horrors?
No, that was Chamber of Horrors was in 91, I want to say.
Was that when they put Abdullah in the
yeah.
In the really shitty electric chair and the switch that didn't stay up because it didn't work
the whole thing was just a total embarrassment. 92 was the Halloween Havoc that saw the wheel come out. And that's when they had the coal miner's glove match. And then what
was the reason for that? Do you know what the reason for that was?
No, I've never found out. They just thought it was a good idea to have a glove with a chain wrapped around it,
Because they used the coal miner's glove thing a lot. Because remember there was the Four Corners
there
match.
Was a few of them.
Where one of the boxes had a title in it, one of the boxes had a coal miner's glove in it, one of the boxes had a picture of Scott Hall in it.
Yeah, you had Kurt Hennig, fighting a few of them.
Okay, but here's the thing, though. If we are, and both companies are, AEW and WWE, they're both resurrecting the old WCW tropes. Are we going to get a Trent's mom on a forklift match?
That would be very in line with how AEW books similar to WCW. So
do you know why? Do you know why we're gonna get Trent's mom on a forklift match?
Yeah, I'll never forget that.
No, do you know why?
Oh, why is that?
'Cause you got to give the people what they want. Oh, come on! I made a positive AEW joke. I'm making progress as a human being. Anyways, we have shot the shit for probably longer on a podcast than we ever have before. Maybe the moral of the story is we need to record on Fridays. Anything else you want to say, brother? Because we've talked the shit out of this show.
No, I'm really looking forward to Halloween Havoc, and thank you so much for having me on here, and I can't wait to be impressed by the show on Wednesday.
Okay, so for those people that don't know, for anybody that's living under a absolute rock, tell them where to find you, tell them about the Afterlife stuff if that's still going on. Floor is yours.
I am on the Joe Cronin Show as his co-host and his go-to guy for all AEW and WWE NXT news. You can go ahead and find me on Twitter. That's at Countdown Ended, and I'm also on YouTube as Countdown Ended as well. And the Extra Life stuff is done for now, but we might have one more event before the year ends, so I'll let you know. Thank you so much.
All right, so guys, Jake will let me know. He'll come on here and let you know, and then I'll just bug you about it until you go to his show, because you guys show me a lot of love. Jake shows me a lot of love. We got to throw it right back at him. It's got to be a two-way street, guys. Anyways, you guys know where to find me or you wouldn't be here. I've been Spaz. He's been Super Sexy Jake DeMarco. We are your NXT reality check. Subscribe up there. Talk down there. Start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, me and Mr. DeMarco are tagging out. Bye, guys.
Don't shut if you're a freak like me.